This is Back Roads of Illinois, server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. This is Back Roads of Illinois, server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. We're glad you're here. I'm Cesar Delgado on today. Today is Black Friday today. I hope that you enjoyed your Thanksgiving and today you're enjoying your weekend. Christmas time is here. We're having a conversation with Josh Linville from StoneX on the fertilizer space for next year about the trade in China and balance sheet. And I visited with Jonh Brien from Agrigold for Eastern Cornbelt in Kansas City from NAFTA convention today on Back Roads of Illinois. Otherwise, I wish you happy holidays. This been Back Roads of Illinois. I am joining with Jonh Brien from Agrigold in the NAFTA convention in Kansas City. John is a technical agronomist for Agrigold in Ohio. Hey John, how are you, and welcome to visit with us in Kansas City from NAFTA convention today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be on your podcast, Caesar.
John, let's start with our conversation about your experience with this growing season in Ohio. We know that yields are mixed after the rains for this spring. What is your take on this growing season?
Well, this growing season in Ohio has been, I would say, similar to the past several, and that is variable. So depending on where you received rain and when really dictated how that crop did. We had a nice little window in April where some people were able to get some crops planted. Those did very well. But unfortunately, we had a significant amount of the crop planted in June, which caused some challenges for us.
How is the reflection on the red crown root rot?
So red crown root rot is an evolving disease that's affecting a lot of growers, and it's catching them by surprise. To be quite honest, it's one of those that we don't have a great management strategy for, but doing what we can do to mitigate that through varieties and practices definitely is very critical because of the severity of that disease.
Of course, especially for this year.
Yeah, you're right.
Southern part of Ohio and Kentucky, Indiana was very wet and cool in the spring. What were your concerns for the crop?
Yeah, so the first concern that we had for that part of the world was getting the crop planted. Were we going to be able to? So that was the first concern. We were able to get that crop in the ground. But the second concern was being planted that late. Were we going to be able to finish that crop in time and still have enough yield potential? And the third one is anytime that you have a crop planted in that wet of conditions, you can have a lot of crown rots and other root rot diseases move in. So those are the big three that we had to work through. But, that crop came out better than anticipated for such a late start and for all the challenges it had.
What is the new BT do you offer?
The new BT?
What is the new BT do you offer?
As far as traits go, when we think about new traits on the corn, the BT4 trait is the newest trait that we're using, and that is a new version of corn rootworm protection for growers who don't have significant pressures but have a light pressure and are looking for some protection for that below ground option. That'd be our BT4 option.
Do you have any final thoughts on this harvest season at the Eastern Corn Belt?
Yeah, Caesar, I think the take-home message from this growing season is probably the same take-home message I'll have next year. Is as we looked at growers and what they did and how they went through the year, I think the take-home message is don't give up on their corn crop. We had growers that gave up on their corn crop because they said it was planted too late or it was too dry. And those growers that didn't give up on their corn crop were able to really reap the benefits of the sticking to their plan. And those that didn't probably lost some bushels and some yield potential. So my take-home message is don't ever give up on your corn crop.
Where people can find more information on your services?
The best place to go is www.agrigold.com.
Thanks, John. It's been my pleasure to have you for today at the convention.
Thank you, Caesar. Appreciate it as well. I hope you have an awesome day.
Jonh Brien from Agrigold in Kansas City from NAF Convention on back roads of Illinois. I will be here on today with Josh Linville from StoneX Financial Services. How are you today, my friend?
Doing good. It's easy when the conference is in our home city, right? I think I had to drive a whole 10 minutes to get here, so I like having this in Kansas City. But otherwise, good. Just getting ready for winter.
Glad to have you on today at the NFB convention.
Absolutely. Every year. It's an annual tradition at this point.
Josh, let's start with our discussion on the fertilizer space for this fall. After that, we saw the yield trends are kinda up from the Department of Agriculture. Can you tell us about the outlook on it?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of talk back and forth on just how big the yield is, right? I mean, there's been some pretty big numbers out there where it's associated with one of the big numbers and people have kind of been pushing back on it. But I think most people, when you kind of get them away from the anger or the sadness, whatever it is, they'll agree it's a big yield. And what that means from our standpoint, big yields means big nutrient removal. And so we're looking at that. If the farmer wants to repeat what they did this year on the big yields, the big fertilizer demand is to follow. The other piece of it that's starting to kind of pop up, I heard this a couple times today, we've been using 93 million acres of corn for next year. That's a massive amount of fertilizer demand. Hearing some numbers being thrown out now for 95 million, that's big numbers. And we don't have, yes, it feels like springtime's a long time away, but from a logistical standpoint, we got some work to do.
Right. What is your position on next year's growing season?
So we're still going to use 93 million acres of corn. We're going to use that as a conservative number to start in. We would rather start lower and build our way into it rather than vice versa. Unfortunately, we're getting a little bit of a reprieve here on some of these fertilizers, but I'm afraid some of these supply problems we're having globally are going to continue to affect the market. And then all of a sudden, the American farmer is struggling, right? They're dealing with, poor finances, struggling through this year. Next year doesn't look great. And so that's causing them to try and wait on their fertilizer purchases. They're hoping for better days. They're waiting for the money to come from the government or from whatever it is. The problem with that is you can't wait forever. And the longer everybody waits, the more that demand wave holds and holds and holds. Eventually a dam has got to break before spring season. The longer we wait, the worse it hurts when it does hit.
Of course. I just talked with your colleagues, with Arlen Suderman and Mike Castle. We had a conversation about the world's supply and demand. What is your thoughts on it?
Yeah, you've already heard the smart ones then talk. You don't even need to be here for that part of it. No, it's fertilizer. The different products have got different issues out there. Phosphate's probably the one that everybody wants to talk about. The price is incredibly high, and a lot of that still has to do with China. China's typically the world's largest supplier of phosphate, export between 8 and 10 million ton. We think their exports this year are going to be 4.5 million. And unless somebody can tell me they've got an in with the Chinese government and can get them to change their export approach, global supply is still going to be snug. Nitrogen still got problems, anhydrous, UAN, urea, all of them have got production problems around the world. It's reducing supplies. Potash is really the only one we look at and say we feel comfortable with it.
How is the fundamentals on the fertilizer markets?
Therein lies the problem. In the past, we've seen prices spike up and then they fall down. That's the thing everybody's worried about today. They think, the prices are up, they're going to fall down through the floor. Well, in the past, that's because there's a massive amount of demand that jumped up. This has all been supply-driven, and supply-driven marketplaces tend to stick around a lot more than the alternatives do. So, unfortunately, yes, we're going to continue to see markets ebb and flow on the pricing, but because this is so much more supply-driven, things are tightly supplied, it's got a lot more lasting power. We don't think this gets solved overnight.
Of course. Do you have any final thoughts on the balance sheet for next year?
No, unfortunately, it's going to continue to be snug. It's going to continue to kind of support pricing. Again, that does not mean price is going to fall. It's just going to be, when we look at it versus historical, it's going to be higher priced. And I think it's one of those things where we need to consider how long it takes to move product around the world. Let's take urea, for example. Half of our imports of the 5 and 5.5 million ton we bring in every year comes from the Middle East. If we load a vessel right now, you and I decide we're going to load a vessel and bring it to the U.S., that vessel does not arrive to our shores until, let's just say, Christmas. Well, now we got to move it inland. Now you've got another 30 days. Now all of a sudden that that vessel doesn't arrive to where we can get our hands on it until late January. And so we're looking at spring and saying, spring's a long way away. We've got so many months, so many weeks, so many days. But logistically speaking, we are getting there quickly. I'm not saying we need to freak out. I'm not saying we need to jump up and down, buy everything we can get our hands on. There's still time to wait and see how it plays out. But logistically speaking, that window is getting a little bit more narrow. And given how much more work we've got to do, especially 93, 95 million acres of corn, we got some struggles.
Where people can find more information on your services?
Yep, I try to get on Twitter and share all the bad news I have to share. And you can find me there. My handle is @JLinvilleFert. If you're interested, we do a monthly farmer newsletter trying to talk about what's going on in the market and everything. A lot of the stuff you and I talk about all the time, but you can find that by Googling StoneX Farmer Fertilizer Newsletter. And, of course, you can always go to stonex.com and find me. The company will make sure I see it.
Thanks, Josh. I enjoyed our conversation for today.
Absolutely.
The Chiefs is getting better, but still not great than my Bears.
Oh, you're hurting me. I was going to say, I don't think the Chiefs are going to have to worry about the playoffs this year. So we'll be with you with the Bears.
Thanks. Again.
This is Josh Linville from StoneX Financial Services on back roads of Illinois.
All right.